Hello and welcome to another episode of Nothing Ventured with me, Aarish Shah. Today in the studio with me, I have Dr. Andrea Isoni. Andrea is Chief AI Officer at AI Technologies. In a world where today AI feels more like a buzzword than a breakthrough, used everywhere, understood nowhere, Andrea cuts through the noise. As lead author of their influential State of AI report, Andrea tackles head-on the gritty realities of AI's practical uses and abuses. He advises global standards bodies, ISO and IEEE, helping shape rules around the tech that could either unlock human potential or accelerate our worst impulses. Today, we're bypassing the hype to challenge some of the assumptions, confront some uncomfortable truths, and interrogate the real future of artificial intelligence. In today's episode, we talk about how AI spends the money while cyber makes the money.
The moment you implement an AI, even if it doesn't do anything for you or any return whatsoever, definitely you need to spend in cybersecurity, therefore are the ones that are benefiting immediately.
Why we're not going to have mass unemployment, but we're going to need to think about what employment might look like. Why we will transition to a hacker economy.
The issue is, the moment you fix it, fix it. You cannot recurrent revenue or do more on that. That's why there is a bounty mentality of the hacker, right?
And how the systems are not 100% trustworthy, so we should remain skeptical.
We should absolutely be aware that these systems are not 100% trustworthy.
With AGI and ASI, are we obsessing over the wrong things? And CFOs, you're safe. It's unlikely that AI will be able to replace you today.
The misunderstanding is part, for many reasons, not entering into that, is the tool will 100% replace the job, not the task, the job. That's the kind of untrue phase.
How the lines between human and synthetically generated data are massively blurring, and Andrea's contrarian view.
I don't think AI will ever become sentient.
Let's get straight into it. Hi there, whilst I've got you for a moment, I just thought I'd reintroduce myself. My name's Aarish, I'm the host of Nothing Ventured, the podcast where I talk to the people behind the stories that make the venture ecosystem go round. I'm also the founder of Emerge One, a consultancy that provides fractional CFO support to venture-backed tech startups from seed to Series B and beyond. If you enjoy listening to the podcast, we would really appreciate it if you could rate, like, and subscribe wherever you listen. And of course, if you want to get in touch with me or have anything you want to say to me about the podcast, do reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm always up for a bit of a natter. Right, let's get back into it. Andrea, really great to have you in the studio today. I'm so glad you can join me. I think we're going to be talking about some pretty pertinent stuff given the state of the world today. But yeah, really, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Well, look, we're going to get into quite a lot around AI, the state of the world, and various other kind of topics that you and I have talked about in the past as well. But let's start with the AI delusion, right? And it really does feel like a delusion, right? We're throwing billions into artificial intelligence, but many of these projects are yielding marginal improvements probably at best. So let's try and kind of get real for a second. What's the biggest lie that's being told about AI right now? Where's the money going that it shouldn't? And who's benefiting from the hype rather than kind of the reality of where AI is?
It's benefiting, as I say many times, the immediate beneficiaries of AI is actually cybersecurity. Because the moment you implement any AI model, etc., the first thing you need to do is secure the system or things like that, or you need to implement, in a scalable way, yeah? If you do a proof of concept, it doesn't matter. But the moment you implement any AI solution for a vendor, whatever that is, you need cybersecurity layers of some sort, yeah? And spending. Therefore, the moment you implement an AI, even if it doesn't do anything for you or any return whatsoever, definitely you need to spend in cybersecurity. Therefore, are the ones that are benefiting immediately. The rest of the question is, what's the biggest lie? The overall media perception is AI. They are kind of two, I think. One is are being fade out, but I'm sure will ramp up again. It's like AI is kind of, it's like a Bing or stuff like that. Now it's a bit fading out, but it's gonna pick it up again.
Yeah.
As when AI improve even more, that will pick up again. Yes, I think this is a lie. And the second one is about AI will completely, everyone will be without work or things like that. Look, obviously, I'm not sure what you want to talk about. It's a lie, not because there are no redundancies due to it. There absolutely are, but it's, quote, temporary.
Right.
And we can discuss as much. Temporary can be literally 1 to 5 years or no, because you need assist. Basically, what is happening is what we call task and work, they need to change, and you need time to create new ones. That is not predictable, but look, one sentence. If we still have problem, we'll need someone to work with it.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever the problem we are, unless you believe in a world without problems.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So I mean, the obvious corollary is the first industrial revolution, where essentially, you had the Luddites and this is taking our jobs, and factories and machines and automated processes are gonna kill off employment. But actually, all that happened was you had to train people on how to use those machines, and that became the new wave of employment. We're going to talk a little bit about the kind of the white collar impact a little bit later, and I think you and I probably have similar thoughts on that. But I think just picking up on those two things, right? So the first is, is AI sentient, and that's what's been kind of in the press, and I guess in people's minds. We're going to talk about AGI in a second as well. So that's obviously, for many people, it feels sentient because they're not, because they've never interacted with something, right?
It feels like it, 100%.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is. And I think the second point around the massive loss of jobs, again, I agree, but I think I think the concern, if anything, is there will be this period, as you say, of having to figure out, okay, what is that new format of working, etc. And I think about my daughters, one who has graduated, one who is 4 or 5 years away from graduating university, and I do wonder what is the market that she will be entering into, because over the next 5 years, I think there will be acceleration, there will be changes. And so I don't think it is a small problem. I think it is. No, I think it is definitely something that needs to be figured out. But who do you think is benefiting from all the hype? Who does it serve to keep creating these kind of...
To have huge investment, you need sort of a lie.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, look, without saying name, look, you have founders, to develop all this system is costly. You need significant money.
You need capital. Yeah.
Exactly. And the only way to rise it is look, in 5 years we have automated driving or something like that. You probably know it's not right, but it's the only way to raise that money, create the hype, etc., to drive the money in.
Yeah.
You wouldn't start without this lie, if you see what I mean. It's
But that,
much as it can, I consider a white lie.
Yeah, but so that's no different, I guess, from from any startup anywhere, right? You start off with the vision, the vision for Uber is not what it
100%
ended up being, right?
The difference is the amount of involvement of any part of the society. Is that what I mean? Uber, probably logistic or driving, is the only one impacting. When you invest in AI, there are many aspects of society that are correlated to that when you do the investment. And probably, well, you know better, I think the amount of money involved in the investment is a magnitude higher.
Yeah.
And therefore, so to speak, you need a stronger lie. And therefore, you need the media that sustain your lie. Otherwise, you wouldn't sustain the investment. But again, I consider that somehow a white lie, because otherwise you wouldn't even start. You need, as you know, founders. One of the traits of the founder is believing something doesn't exist.
Yeah.
In a way, it's a sort of a naivety. But without that, we would never even start.
Yeah. No, and we're, we saw it with Mira Murati, right? She just raised $2 billion on nothing, right? But the reality is that she raised that $2 billion because she's Mira Murati, right? She's the ex-CTO of OpenAI. She knows, she's been through that incredible job. I can't remember the numbers now, but I think, in the first 5 days of launching, they added, a million plus users or whatever. Sure. Maybe it was orders of magnitude even beyond that. So, to your point, capital, the providers of capital have become incredibly acutely aware of the opportunity within AI. I think the point that you're making is that we don't actually really know where that opportunity is or where it's going to land.
No.
But people are starting to take the bets on, okay, this could happen.
Yes.
And if it could happen, then I want to be in at the ground floor.
It's the classical high-risk, high-return situation. Definitely is going to happen. You don't know exactly what is going to happen. At the end of the day, an investor he needs a return of investment.
100%.
He doesn't know where it is.
Yes.
It's not that AI will not. Everyone he knows that AI will work.
Yeah.
Somehow, somewhere. But he doesn't know where the return will come from.
Yeah, sure.
That's the problem, right? Yeah. And nobody really understand where the money will come from. It's like early days of Google. Burning money, okay, you're going to make money. We'll see. The founders say that in post-event interview. I think in 2010, if you look for the founders of Google, they will tell you exactly this story. Yeah. We didn't know. Well, let's move on. At some point, they eventually figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the system.
Yeah.
There is an alternative to this system. That's the question, right?
Yeah.
And the answer to me is unfortunately no.
Yeah. No, I mean there's a couple of sort of thoughts there, right? Like, so one is at the moment I think a lot of these AI companies are still trying to figure out their unit economics, like very clearly. They are not returning. They're not profitable at a unit economics level. On a $20 a month subscription or whatever, right? Like they're going to have to figure that out at some point. And then to your point around the risk, reward, etc. Like I saw, and again, you and I were both at Founders Factory, as you mentioned in the Quickfire. Brent Hoberman just put out a post on LinkedIn saying that he's come in as a very small angel investor. Like, I don't know how big or small, but a small angel investor in Lovable, right?
Yeah.
But at their kind of Series B or whatever it is right now, right? So he's taken that risk later on, but he believes in that product. Now, I, for example, think Lovable is a great product. I think something will supersede it at some point in time, potentially, right?
I don't know. The problem is just because you mentioned that. Let's talk about a little bit of the category, right? Lovable in a category of automation of software development, right? Yeah. Okay. Not sure if it's Lovable is like product market fit. Who knows? I haven't studied too much to know exactly the ambient, but for sure is as we speak today is a super competitive segment.
Yeah, I mean, Google has Firebase. You have
there
Replit,
are other startups in California, which
Yeah.
are from. It's super competitive.
Yeah, sure.
What I'm trying to say is, even there will be one.
Yeah.
All the other will lose money. There will be one that do ridiculous return. All the other.
Yeah.
They will be acquired by the winner.
Exactly. And the thing with something like Lovable is, again, having played around, I think it's fantastic. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's an absolutely incredible product for someone who is non-technical, right? Like myself. But I came across exactly the same problems that I think many people have come across is you can get to a certain point, but at that certain point, you still need someone to come in and figure out the security and figure out how to work the back end. And
Absolutely. And that will come. Remember, before we're talking about what will be the job of the future, etc. By the way, I have a newsletter. If someone want to follow that on LinkedIn. They are talk extensively about that, even on the fact that I'm gonna say is about what will be the job / the economy of the future, right? Sure. And there was I don't remember, probably last year or 2 years ago, I can't remember, but I wrote a edition of my newsletter. There was something like, we are gonna have a hacker economy. The reason why I use the word hacker is our hacker. By the way, when I say hacker, I mean a good hacker, as in the one
white hat hacker.
The white hat hackers. Yes. I'm talking about the one that help. So basically, you have an infrastructure, and then there is a bounty. That's the way they work, right? They don't have a salary or monthly salary, etc. They pay by. If you find a bug on whatever the system, you get a bounty. Yeah. They will live out of a bounty. Yeah, that's the way a hacker make money and survive and whatever, right?
Can you find or exploit vulnerabilities in the system?
Exactly. Yeah. So I believe there will be a transition somehow, somewhere in many industries in which many of us work as in a monthly salary. They have a monthly salary. Put it that way. It's simple. Well, in the future, when this AI system will work, for us, the job of many of our there will be, especially integration. We can talk about that because this is a curse of any IT system, including AI, is integration. But not only that, even let's say lovable, just because you're there, they did a mistake or there is a bug, etc. You need someone that fix that mistake. Yeah. The issue is the moment you fix it, fix it. You cannot recur revenue or do more on that. That's why there is a bounty mentality of the hacker, right? They need to have a significant amount of money for that, because otherwise he himself doesn't. The moment I tell you where the mistake is, or it's over. You don't need me anymore. Exactly anymore. Therefore, I need to have a significant amount of money, because otherwise I cannot give you. Therefore, that's the work of the future.
I think what. Yeah. So I mean,
many different ways. By the way, it's not just the software. Any IT integration, anything that use that, you need to debug it. It's like the mechanic. When your car is broken, what do? You go to the It's kind of the bounty kind of thing.
He's gonna fix it. You're not going to go back. You hope you won't go back for 4 years, right?
For 4 years, exactly, before the next one. So it's kind of that mentality.
It's
and for us, it's very difficult. Sorry, just that, because most of us is accustomed.
Is linear,
is accustomed to the salary.
So the way I would think about it is more and more work moves towards a fractional consultancy type model, where you are deployed into a project, do the project, move on to the next one, as opposed to your point, linear work.
Yes.
Of course, there will be linear work.
Sure.
You will need people that, arguably you don't, but you will probably need people to write copy, to manage your marketing. You will need people to run your finance, but you might need fewer people day to day. But from time to time, you're going to need someone more significant to come in and say, we need to rework your systems, or we need to now integrate this new technology into what you're doing. So I think the nature of work becomes more knowledge intensive, actually, which is interesting, and potentially more specialized, right? Because again, your AI is generalizing away everything, right? And we're going to talk about this a little bit later when we talk about codifying the CFO, which is obviously one of my favorite topics to talk about.
Of course.
But you need a bit more specialization, but you will need specialists with generalist abilities, because they'll need to be able to go from industry to industry to industry and solve these problems, right? Which is, as you say, very uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, because the daily life is, I have a monthly salary, I can plan ahead, etc. This kind of job, just to clarify, they don't work like that. As in, you're super necessary at that right moment, at that right time. You're indispensable for a short time. The moment you solve it, you're not need. It's a huge difference, right? In the work, as we experience work today, you're always kind of necessary.
Theoretically.
So to speak. Yes, but
sure.
You see what I mean. We are used to that linearity of things.
But which is
brutal.
Which is exactly why so many people are panicking, because actually some of the tasks that they have been doing have been automated away so easily that they're like, oh, okay, hold on a second. Like, okay, what does this mean? What is my purpose now?
It's assurance. It's basically assurance. I talk a lot more in my newsletter, but another way to say is the assurance part of the job. Well, you will be hugely expanded because you need to, whatever the AI, it's not necessarily the system works, so to speak, on 99%. You want to assure it's gonna work all the time, and that's the work of the humans.
Yeah. No, I think this is it's an incredibly interesting conversation to be having, because we're in an economy in the UK at the moment where we have like significant numbers of the population outside of work, right? Not in jobs. There is a massive opportunity in the UK actually to retrain, upskill, or cross-train people. And Keir Starmer, if you're listening, this might be something you want to consider. Like, I know you have an AI kind of thing going on, but maybe you should think about the reality. But there is a massive opportunity. I think we should look at the opportunity, not the cost.
Can I add one thing on that? So just a preamble. Every year for the last 4 or 5 years, I don't remember exactly, but as AI technology, we publish every January the State of AI report. Okay. it's a long discussion on that, but definitely in that report every year, including the last 2025, a few months ago, we do basically some expectation or let's
Predictions.
call it prediction on what is going to happen in the next year. One of which I say, because of the exact reason that you're saying, that I'm expecting in the next 1 year from January, or maximum 2 years, at least in the US, they will roll out a nationwide AI upskill program.
Yeah.
I wrote that.
And
because it's necessary.
It's it's like 100% necessary. Like, I mean, I think, so it's interesting. I was sat, as I mentioned, I was with 50-ish of my family members in Greece last week. And I sat down with one of my cousins. My cousin goes, okay, can you tell me, like, I want to create now, I want to start building out a consultancy in XYZ field, and I want to start creating content.
Sure.
I use ChatGPT to do stuff, but can you tell me how to do it properly? And I'm like, okay, well, this is what you do, and you have to prompt like this, and you got to give it, you got to get it to act in a certain way, and so on and so forth, right? In the way that I think, people who are using these sort of tools on a very regular basis would have no, problem understanding. But and my cousin is, probably within the top, whatever, 5, 10, 15% of people that would adopt a new technology and use it and see how it works. But even he was like, okay, but I don't know how to prompt in the way that you do, or in the way that, that I have. And something as simple as that, like literally just training people how to use the existing technology better, let alone like, okay, how do you now upskill to the next level, would fundamentally be a massive shift.
Including to that, I think it's important to have an aspect of the, there is an emotional reaction. Using, they are a little bit scared of things like that. So part of the training
is reluctance.
Reluctance. Perfect word. So I'm a bit scared. What's gonna happen? My data will go. Who knows what? They will store on my account. I don't know. They start to have all these negative thoughts, and therefore part of the training, as much as is practical, as in as you said, writing the prompt, etc., is very important to look. Nothing to be feared. You can do that. You see, it's safe. You don't have any problem with that. And that actually, I think it will help a lot.
Yeah. No, I mean, like the example I give all the time is my daughter, who'll be 18 this year, obviously uses AI as part of, as a student, right? Like when she's revising and, when she's, when she's doing her work, not that it is replacing the thinking. And this is one of the big problems is like, it should not replace the thinking that needs to be done. But she really does not like the idea that AI exists. Like, she finds it really uncomfortable that there is this tool which she will use because she knows that if she doesn't use it, she'll get left behind. But it really upsets her that it exists in a way that needs to be used. And what I say to always is like, don't think about what it is replacing. Think about what it can augment and what it can do for you.
Okay.
And help you do more of what you want to do rather than replace the things you don't.
If you like, if you want, can we dig a little bit further on that?
Please.
What's this? I'm trying to understand where this fear is coming from. I give you the kind of ballpark. I'm not understanding if this fear is coming from because she was enjoying doing that before.
Yeah.
Or it's something, I don't know what it is. It's weird. It's not a human. Whatever.
She is definitely a very human person. And I think part of it comes from, I don't like this non-sentient thing that has suddenly taken over so much of the discourse and so much of kind of day-to-day life. And I think there probably is within her this sort of slight, not fear, but again, discomfort that, what does this mean for me in the future, right? She's young.
Sure.
She's a few years away from graduating university. Still a year away from graduating high school, right? But she's a few years away from graduating university. What is life going to look like for her, given that these tools now exist, right? And I think part of it is also, I think rightly so, she understands and appreciates that it levels the playing field somewhat in a way that wasn't the case previously, right? Like in the sense, if you've got two students of different abilities, actually they can both now be at the same level of ability. Because
this is a temporary effect. I give an example just because it's in the same scenario, but okay, overall is not, and then if you want, I give you the example. The reason is, let's continue what you say. Absolutely, they will, someone that is, for whatever reason, is more lazy, whatever, it looks like at the same level they want, they put the effort, etc. But this is a temporary effect.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is the moment you start working, etc., at some point...
You're not using the AI all the time.
Not only that, but at the end of the day, we live in capitalist society.
Yeah,
there
sure.
is kind of a competition among ourselves, like free enemies, if you could want to call it like that. I like the word free enemies in this situation. That means at some point, there must be someone that, for whatever reason, it can be just because you put more effort, right? It doesn't need because I believe cleverness is overstated, but that's another story for another day.
Says the guy with a PhD, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. Look, believe on me. Look, cleverness is overstated for success in society, but it's another story. You didn't invite me.
No,
for
it's
that.
true. IQ and there's actually a negative correlation between IQ and intelligence and actual success or whatever it is.
I think adaptability will be, but anyway.
I 100% agree. No, I'm 100%
anyway,
agree.
if you want, we talk another day. But what I'm trying to get into this conversation is that, okay, yes, absolutely. At the beginning, a temporary effect, they look the same in terms of output. Because at the end of the day, a company wants an output. The output is the same. These two people are indistinguishable. Big, however.
Yeah.
The however is, at some point, for whatever reason, they will need more output from you. That is not possible for the AI.
Yeah.
It can be the same hacker economy. Like, the hacker economy, like, oh, the system is broken, right? The system is broken, you need to fix it because it's wrong example. The one that put the effort over the years, over the time, will know how to do it.
Will understand how to do
it. The
sure.
other one that just press the button, that it looks the same, it will not.
Yeah.
Therefore, back to square one, right? So the one that actually put the effort, they will be rewarded because they will be the one that know to do more than the rest.
Yeah.
Although at that moment they will not feel it, and this is super dangerous because they will feel, look, the other guy that put the effort, it looks silly because he's putting an effort. Look, what's the reason for this? Not useful. He's wasting his time, and it will be for a significant part, but it's building up. At some point, I kid you not, there will be a moment the system breaks. The other will have no clue.
Yeah.
And the other one will know how to do something.
Yeah, which is so that is
the history of humanity.
Yeah, exactly, right? that is about learning how to, that's application, right? Like that's learning how to apply what you've learned rather than just blindly, as you say, pushing buttons or ingesting content or whatever, right? Like I talk about it a lot. There's a big difference between talking about being a CFO as an example and actually being a CFO, right? Because the talking about it is easy. I can, talk about cap tables and talk about this and talk about that. But unless you've been like in a business that is, struggling to get funding, has limited runway, etc., you won't know how to deal with that situation because as with everything, right? Theory is only theory. Practice is what actually gives you
There is no substitution of making the effort, learning something, or even if it seems useless.
Yeah.
Because it is used in terms of output. But at some point, even if you make an effort, you're improving yourself.
Exactly.
That improvement, I strongly believe there will be something that puts you ahead. At some point, there is not specified now. It's not specified, by the way, for the same reason it's not specified what the return of investment in AI is.
Because we don't know.
Exactly. But there will be. Yeah. So put the effort. Yeah. It's in your own benefit.
I'll have to bring you home to talk to my daughter. Okay, I want I want to talk about one of the things that you mentioned earlier, right? The big lie about sentience, right? And there is this whole kind of thing around distraction around AGI, right? Artificial general intelligence. Yeah. It's dominating a lot of the conversations. And of course you hear, people from Elon Musk to Sam Altman to whoever giving very, very varied predictions or kind of, I guess facts, if you like, about how close to AGI we are. But real world AI deployments frequently fail basic ethical tests around privacy, around bias, around transparency. So we kind of obsessing over future theoretical threats to avoid fixing the ethical messes that we're in today?
No, again, we back to first principle. If there will be problem, which I think there will be anyway, anyhow, there will be job to do. So I do believe the AI system, as much as there will be quote better than us in many applications, they will still have something that doesn't work, something that is missing, etc. Keep the hacker mentality in mind, right? There will be something broken that someone else external to the AI. And by the way, there is kind of a mentality now. Okay, the AI is broken. There is another AI that solved the AI.
Fix the AI.
And then there is another. You can go indefinitely in these reasons.
I mean, that's how I use AI. Right? I use AI to build apps on N8N or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. They will solve it. At some point, this system breaks, and guess what is left? Us to intervene. So I think even if at some point we are talking about, in my judgment, at least 10 years from now. If you want, I can tell you something practical about that. An example from the recent past. And then I don't think we shouldn't wear it. We should absolutely be aware that these systems are not 100% trustworthy, and we should always have an industry, and now it's recently born, that all it does is constantly checking that the output of the system, for whatever reason, are safe, secure, and they don't give the wrong output. Remember, this system, if they interact with the world, they're very fast. You can crash the whole system worldwide in a matter of seconds, because all these things not all the time, but potentially could be connected. So having insurance, let's put it in that way. At some point, eventually, we will find out a huge return of investment with this system, like Google, right? 80% margin, whatever they are now, I don't know. But if you look at the balance sheet, there is something like that, right? So they found out a huge return of investment. That return of investment will be a little bit eroded by a new nascent industry of. So you have a huge return on investment, but you erode quote a little bit of a new industry that secured this. And that would be the assurance industry. So no, I don't think that we shouldn't worry about. We should, this industry will expand. Securing the AI with whatever systems, including us involved on it. It's not possible that us will be out of the loop.
Is AGI, I mean, is it science fiction? Is it something that we think we will see in our lifetimes, right? Where in our 40s or
the problem is, that's interesting, because if you look at it, there are different definitions. You're using the word AGI. There are others that use the word ASI, which artificial super intelligence. There is. So even with this clue, you understand that not even the definition is clear. So if we fix a definition, let's say a definition is the 9-to-5 job, or most of the job will be replaced. If you agree with the definition, okay? In that case, when I say job, I should probably use the word task rather than job. But in that case, most of them, at some point in our lifetime, as we know today, yes, they will. It happened already, by the way, in the past, right? The task that we do now, they were doing in the 50s, like, I wasn't there, but you remember the copywriting in the keyboard. That doesn't exist anymore.
But even computer coding, right? Punch cards and whatever, right?
If you have this definition in mind, of course they will at some point. All the tasks we're doing, not all, but most of the tasks we're doing today, they will be replaced and we do something else. But the key is that's my idea, they will absolutely do something else. Now, if you use another definition, let's do more close to science fiction, like an AGI that will do most of the work, not only most of the 9-to-5 job that we have today, but also the, I don't know, what else is...
Well, it can self-reflect and basically create its own...
All of that. For example, there are already today, as we speak, AI solution that can invent new drug or new tier. quote new theorem. But look, you can get there. But at some point, you need to verify all this. You cannot blindly trust these things, otherwise become a religion. This is the big, by the way, this is the big distinction between religion and any sort of science. Religion is something that you believe and there is no error. Zero.
Yeah. There's no room for skepticism.
No, exactly, zero. Yeah. Science is actually based on error.
Skepticism, yeah, sure.
So
the scientific method is 100% how do you...
When you talk about anything related to science, like is AI, remember is a science, hence there is an error.
So actually, I want to just dig into that for a second, right? Because I think one of the misconceptions out there is this lack of understanding of what is sitting behind the chatbot, right? So I think I've always said, right, I mean, like AI, as you and I know, has been something for the last 40, 50, 60 years, right? It is not that systems have not been built. The big difference is the LLMs and then the essentially the user interface, i.e. via chatbot. That is what has exploded it into the popular world. And don't get me wrong, that's a massive thing. And of course, has already had like huge ramifications. But behind it are algorithms, right? Behind it is science. Behind it is, but behind all of that is also human. And the great example of that is a week or two ago, and I can't talk about the details of it because we'll get banned. But Grok, X's AI, had some real problems, right? Like, it kind of went a little bit 1930s, and
1930s and 40s, right? 100%.
Yeah.
And the question is, we want to me elaborate.
Well,
the problem banned.
We can't talk about the specific, people that it was potentially.
There is a delicate balance between freedom of speech in general and what is allowed, or saying or doing it. It's a delicate balance, and the problem I think is who is going to decide where the balance is, where the line is.
Yeah.
Well, in my judgment, the way we decide a balance is if it's art in society. But again, even art in society, you need a differentiation.
It's a recursive.
It's a recursive search. But at the end of the day, look, if you want my opinion in all these things, the only way to solve this is an individual level.
Yeah.
What I mean by that, we need to go forward. Because at the end of the day, look, I tell you this, I think it's related. I'm not going in a tangent, although you will see in live for 30 seconds.
That's okay. This whole podcast is tangents, it's fine.
In the defense world, you can press a button, have huge liability, as in you can press a rocket back with a nuclear weapon, do significant stuff. We are going forward in a society that this kind of power is pushed to more and more people in a way, right? Yeah. Because in the 50s, you didn't have any technology that could arm the whole system.
Yeah.
More and more people today, just compare the 50 to the now, they have all the means that the economy to have significant arm into the system if they are reasonably skilled. Yeah. So the barrier to arm the whole system is lowering.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So what you want to do, the usual way we've been thinking until now is, okay, we put more regulation, more police, more, so we control the people doesn't do the harm. I think at some point we'll break because there are too many people to control. Like now in social media, how do you control that? You can't.
Yeah.
It's too many. By the way, people not sure how much they know it, but what we call the web is like actually, I don't remember the number, but let's say 10% of the actual total web. The rest is dark web. It's like an iceberg, right? What we see is actually 10%. The rest is below water. Why I'm saying all of this? Because frankly, we are talking very long term now, right? So the only solution is citizens as capital C, in fact, all the letters, to be honest, capital, all the letters, right? Which means you have self-control, you know what, that should are the society, you don't do it. And you don't do it because the moment you do it, you will at some point, not immediately, but will come back to yourself.
Yeah.
At some point somewhere. The more we have technologies that empower people, and we frankly do, I don't think there is another solution. So you need a citizen with capital letters. Do you understand that if he does something, he's screwing himself eventually, all the system, all the society is living with it.
But so you're talking, yeah, okay. I mean, like that comes to like the sovereign individual kind of viewpoint as well, right? Because okay, if
the other system is an attempt that you see today, the initial attempt, we need to put more police in place, more control. That's what we are trying today, if you see what I mean, right?
Especially in Europe, like regulate everything.
Fair enough, but even in other people, look, we ban everything. We try to that. We're trying to that. We are trying that method now. I doubt it will work because we are too many.
Yeah.
And to empower, so to speak.
Yeah, and there are too many people who will use it irrespective of what the regulations
even outside the country, they can be inside at some point,
well, I mean,
right?
like the really easy example, I guess, like maybe to put this in context for other people, is like if you go to Dubai, you cannot use WhatsApp to make a phone call. So what do people do? They download a VPN and then they use WhatsApp to make a phone call, right? Like so if you want to skirt the system, you can find a way to skirt the system, right? Like the
Absolutely.
And the point is, I like taking this back to kind of AGI. I guess your point is, and here's the other thing, right? Like you talked about pushing the button and nuclear proliferation and so on and so forth. You know, would you want AGI to decide whether or not to push the button?
Yeah.
And my answer to that would always be no.
Of course not.
Because you need human judgment, right? It's
Yes.
not rules-based.
Yes, there will be. I absolutely agree on that.
Yeah.
But remember also this, which is important. If you study a little bit more on nuclear proliferation, etc., actually, if you dig a little bit deep, having more countries that have
Nuclear weapons
is actually more safe.
Yeah, because mutually assured destruction.
Exactly.
Right?
So nobody will do it because it's going to
Because
happen
everyone's
straight
gonna
after.
die. Yeah.
Therefore, the more we have this, in a way, the more we have this technology around, distributed to many more countries, the safer
it is. Yeah.
But there is a big caveat. The caveat is you need citizens. Because you're not only, unfortunately, nuclear weapon, you cannot have a dude in the street with a nuclear weapon. It doesn't happen. With AI, you can. That's the difference. So with nuclear weapon, if you have a non-nuclear proliferation act, that's fair enough. Because at the end of the day, the people that are access to that button is reasonably few, reasonably quote, so to speak. Obviously, there are hackers can get in, not get into that.
Sure.
But reasonably, in AI, it's out of the question.
Yeah.
There are too many.
China is going to develop AI capabilities.
There are too many people.
The US, whoever, right? Like, and the point is now, if you have, you know, if you have some sort of background in neuroscience or in software engineering or in computer science, etc., like, or rather, I even more than that, right? Like a lot of people in AI at the moment are come from philosophy background, for example, right? So actually, it's democratized access to this incredible field, which, you know, means that someone like me, again, as I've said, right, no super technical background can now start getting involved. Now, does that mean I'm going to go out and build the next AI business? No, probably not. But am I going to use AI to take myself forward? Yes, and my business forward, of course, right?
On that, just want to say an example that probably is more practical of who is taking the final decision.
Yeah, sure.
So in AI technology, back in 2000 we started in 2023 and we finished in 2024. It was a proof of concept for the Ministry of Justice of Saudi Arabia. Okay. Yeah. And we did a proof of concept as any Ministry of any justice system actually, they have judges. There we go. That what the job of the judge is to make a decision on certain cases. So they give us data of mostly car accidents, So what's the data on car accident? You have a debate in court, all the document what happened, you have the bump in the car, whatever that is, the crash.
Witness reports,
the windscreen is broken because whatever. All of that. And then there is debate of defense and accusation part, And the accusation usually, at the end of the day, needs to have a claim. Look, I want 10,000 real, whatever the amount is, You have all this data, okay, here we go, this is the data. I want a system that automatically judge.
Yeah. I was gonna ask this, right? Because the reason we have a jury system in the UK, in the US, and many other democracies is because the law is not sufficiently rule based that you can allow for zero human judgment.
Yeah,
within
there
the
is
decision-making,
a
right?
discretion.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
a way.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
there is absolutely a discretion. It's not because it's not possible to do without it. Just in case someone go on the tangent on that, it's just impossible today to do that.
Yeah.
So the end result, and then I continue with your question, is like we did a system. By the way, so in a way, it's 1 year old, which is kind of a lot in AI system, right? So bear that in mind. It was January, February 2024, so more than 1 year ago. 95% accuracy. We prove of concept data, so not even too much data. If we give more data, or we refine the system, to be honest, is also the system can be significantly refined. 90% of the system compared to a human judge will go straight off to the bar, few seconds. Well, in this case, it was a few minutes, but doesn't matter. It's fast enough compared to a real judge, right?
Yeah, sure.
It was the same result, or the equivalent, what you would call good result. What I'm going to that. Now, would you trust this system in a legal system?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will be a more, granular answer to that. I would trust it in situation. Look, in a car accident for a bump in the car.
Yeah.
You have this option, right?
Yeah, sure.
So you have a bump in a car, you're in a lawsuit, call the guy, whatever that is.
Yeah,
you have two
that
options.
would be acceptable.
Yeah, exactly. You have two options.
Sure,
1 year lawsuit or 30 seconds and you decide what you want to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool. So it depends on the gravity of the situation, right? So
yeah, if on the other hand it's a car accident where someone has lost their life or there's been serious injury or harm, you may want to have.
Of course.
Yeah.
If there is a serious... But again, where do you put the line?
Yeah, sure.
So I think at some point, there will be a system. Look, me and you both agreed that we trust AI. Oh, both agree, no. So there is a consensus among the two parties that will do the AI. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, in that situation, beneficial or more, even if I need to give you £10,000 because I'm wrong, would I want to waste 10... I don't know, 1 year, whatever. 6 months, even, I don't know, I have no idea. But to that or that, probably even me that is going to pay, I prefer to do that now.
Yeah.
So I think that in this court case decision, the good way, obviously, I know a little bit more because I literally did that project. I think a consensus between the people will be enough.
Yeah. Yeah, which is fair again, right? Because again, it's if you're both agreed that you use the same principle, then it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Even if let's go to the extreme.
Because even if
it's a suicide or an homicide, it's fine.
Yeah, but
as long as we both have.
As long as we agree, because even today, if you think about it, in a situation where there's a car crash, right? For example, even today, you and I could agree that we go to court or we'll settle out of court, right?
Perfect.
So there's as long as we are consenting to the same process. Where it becomes unfair is if I disagree, but it still goes through that process. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Then I don't know. We figure it out. But do you see, it's a bit more granular than never. What I was trying to understand is more granular than never. And by the way, even in that case, I will not mind a human review. In the judicial system, by the way, there is I forgot the name, but there is a 400-year institution which is in London that public lecture has been done public lecture for the last 400 years. Well, if I remember the name, I would suggest you to watch it, but I don't remember the name. But apart from that, it's 400 years something. They do lecture on any type of subject. One of which I watched it was the judicial system in UK, which, by the way, I think is scalable around the world. If you listen to that lecture, you will say, look, a judge is actually overwhelmed by work. It's not like I asked all the time on the world to review your case. He has 20 other cases to look at it. So the amount of time he has to review the case, is limited. Therefore, even if I am perfect situation, I will have possibly prone to errors, right? Imagine if you are in a time constraint, like is the real system, because it costs money. And remember that we are in a society, even that costs money, right? So they have a limited system. Imagine an AI system like that allow a judge to do an initial review of his work. It suggest what to do with that. Hey, but review of that. It will save in times. Therefore, the system will be, because at the end of the day, just because we are talking about the judicial system, I think the major pain, whatever side you are, is the fact that it's long.
Yeah. Well, this is so this is like, let's get on to the next.
Sorry, I was a bit
because I think this leads into kind of my next question very well, right? And we've talked about this again, right? So what you're talking about is codifying a process which up until now has been what I would call white collar knowledge work, right? So there's been a lot of talk in my sphere, right? Probably not anywhere else because it's kind of boring, but there's been a lot of talk about, can you codify being a CFO? And you could take that as codifying a lawyer, codifying a CFO, codifying whatever.
You can
right?
codify an accountant.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the point, right? So because the point is, can you genuinely codify the strategic thinking and judgment that goes into being a CFO into AI? Or is that kind of fantasy masquerading as progress, right? Because like what I'd want to understand is what is realistically automatable today, and which parts of the executive level decision making will just remain human.
Perfect.
And we talked about we talked about nuclear, nuclear bombs, judiciary, etc. This kind of falls into the same.
We can talk about all of that. By the way, I'm gonna write a post in my newsletter. Is in preparation, but so you put a grid in horizontal. You put human, AI, etc., and then there is different characteristics.
Sure.
The one is intuition, memory, creativity, error rate, something like that, and you see where the AI compared to the human are. For example, clear, right? The AI have infinite memory, and we don't have infinite memory.
Yeah.
But let's focus to one characteristic, which is the subject, or I believe at least is the subject of this question, which is intuition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so to answer this question about the CFO, how much is purely based on fact and purely based on gut feeling, the job of the CFO?
It's
based on that, we can continue the conversation.
It's predominantly intuition, right?
There
like
we go.
So to your point, right? An accountant's work is rule based. You follow like, this is how you debit, this is how you credit, this is where it goes where, and even there's some judgment, like 100%. How you recognize revenue, etc. But the CFO, like if I'm on a call with a client, I'm not looking at numbers and just going, okay, this is this and this is that, therefore this is the outcome. In fact, CFO, like most of my job is, here's a range of options.
There we go.
Right? Here's a range of options based on what I know, what I've seen, and a little bit of gut, right? This is an option that I recommend. It doesn't mean that it's the right option.
Fair enough. Let's dig a little bit, if I can. You say a little bit of gut feeling. Explain more what that gut feeling is, and then I will tell you if or not, which I believe I will say no. But let's explain that.
So gut feeling. I mean, it's not even really gut feeling, right? Because what we describe as gut feeling is actually years upon years upon years of pattern recognition. Right. Yeah. And very subtle pattern recognition. So it is not a case of like, okay, this company is running out of money. It needs 2 million in the bank. What can we do? It's okay. I remember this time where we had a little bit of a cash flow gap and we secured some financing to do X, Y, Z. This is how we did it. Could we apply the same thing here? It isn't a one for one, like for like sort of situation, but it's a similar pattern, right? Yeah. Like it's, okay, I need to extend runway. What do I do to do that? And what are the levers that are at my disposal? Also, that intuition, that gut feeling comes from the fact that I intimately not only know the numbers of the business, but I'm talking to the CEO, I'm talking to the board, I'm talking to the investors, I'm talking to suppliers, customers, etc. I know the entire shape of the business, which allows me to make those decisions.
Okay, perfect. I add a little bit more on that. Stop me wherever you want, because apology fees will be a little bit long.
No, it's fine.
But I believe it's important to understand. So I start with this agreement, which is, I believe that spread of option will be possible to AI. Pattern recognition, you feed up, you or whoever else in the world did the CFO work, he has all the data collected that you will put in an AI, it will give you
here are 5 options that you can consider.
So, exactly. But the problem now is the problem, right? Okay, you don't need you. They have the spread of option, just direct to the client and use the spread of option without you. Possible? Yes, it's possible. However, there is a big however.
Trust. Yeah.
No. I explain what I mean by that. If you do that, you first of all, you expecting that the client will understand this option.
Yeah, sure.
It seems trivial, but it's not trivial because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
He will read the option. It seems obvious, but he will not think because he never been in this situation about the consequences of this option.
Yeah.
And the AI, of course, he will inquire, well, can you give me he will write it, but one thing is to write it. One thing is understanding what he's actually saying. At some point, that's what we will do. If without you will be, okay, he can do it. Of course you can do it. You can dig the hole, right? Okay, give me the consequence of that so I can think about it. Okay, give me at some point, he will say, look, it's too much. I need someone else to do it. Yeah. Or no. Otherwise, he really has all the time. But at the end of the day, you see where you're going to. So you will need someone to, funny enough, interpret the AI.
Yeah.
Not because it's not written. It's literally written. It's nothing ambiguous or not.
No, but there's subtlety in the outcome, right?
He has not the experience to actually understand what's the consequence because he's never been in that situation. Yeah. On top of that, the AI doesn't know in which emotional state the guy is.
Yeah.
You may have a guy that is very risk-averse on situation. Although it's the best solution, so to speak, he's a risk-averse person or is in a risk-averse type of company or industry that the AI doesn't know.
So the example I would give right there is like I could be advising two founders. One is a 23-year-old, like same business, but one is a 23-year-old, no family, no mortgage, like, you know, absolutely kind of free and easy. Same business, but the founder is 45-year-old, you know, has a mortgage, you know, has dependents. Even if they're in exactly the same business with exactly the same problem facing them, I will give them two completely different pieces of advice. Right?
Absolutely. Even if he knows that the age, he will say, okay, but you give the age to AI, he will give it. No, because even if he give it, he will not understand the possibility, and there will be data will be not inside AI, by the way. He doesn't know if the company has a department is in trouble for whatever the trouble is, but he wants to save it because the founder is attached to the department because that was the first department in which the other department started off, so he doesn't want to, you know, to leave it off for purely emotional reasons, right? Although it's good they cut it off because that part of the business is not profitable. Hey, but it's his company. Why, you know, you need to consider this. I'll give an example, but just to the point. But I think that beyond the CFO, if you allow me, I think it's important to read this.
Yeah, sure.
So you see where we start. It's a process kind of thing. We start, okay, but then I can do your job. Technically, so to speak, it give you the option. At some point, you will realize, hang on, but I do think that I don't understand, etc. Even if I understand it, I will take a lot of, because, I need to study account. I don't know what that means. So basically, you're going to retrain yourself to a job that is not yours. And doing that, guess what? You're not doing the CEO or whatever the other job you're doing, right? Yeah. So it's technically possible if you want to retrain and redo another job, But if you don't want to do that, guess what? There is you.
Hire me. Exactly.
And this is important because it's not just for the CFO. Yeah. You will see this process in many other industries. I'll give you this example. How would I say? Yes. By the way, even this I wrote in one of the editions of the newsletter. Is about... how would I call it, personal assistant or all this kind of job, or even cleaning kind of thing, literally cleaning people, etc. What you're going to say is, okay, the first thing, I don't need an AI assistant, right? Because I have an AI, it will do the assistant for me. I don't need AI. This is the catch. Look, I cut it short, but otherwise it will be too long, but this is the catchy quote phrase. It's like, an AI assistant will do the job of the actual real assistant. One caveat, one for you. Yeah. You will need to do 5% more job than you do now. Would you do it?
No, 100%.
Here we go.
So the reason I don't use a calendar scheduler and I have a real life executive assistant is because I know that she knows, looking at my calendar in this instance, okay, I can't. I need to make sure I don't schedule him here. Exactly. Or this is going to require some travel, so I need to schedule in this way, or whatever, right?
The reason why you start to have an assistant is because you don't want to do the 100% of the job.
Yeah, I don't want to think about any of it.
If you, let's say 1%, you will do probably not anyway, because the whole purpose to have an assistant to actually pushing all the job to AI. It's not to me, hey, you can do 99, but still you will do the 1%. By the way, in the most inconvenient time for you to do that. So what happens in the market, just to be practical in the market? You start with the mentality of that. You know what happens? So you have the actual assistant by the CFO, etc. Is the same kind of mentality.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same space.
No. You start there. You think these tools are directly for the client, or directly to the client.
They're for me.
But exactly, they will come. So you outsource to the VA, virtual assistant, or the CFO. The CFO will outsource to that.
To the AI,
Not directly. Because otherwise you end up in this issue.
No, and that's my thought, right?
I think it's clear, right?
Exactly. I think what we're gonna see, what we are already seeing very clearly, is the rise of the co-pilot, right? Like that's essentially what you're talking about. So you have the coding co-pilot, you're going to have the finance co-pilot, which are directed exactly as you said at the practitioners, as opposed to they
will not replace it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we have to remind in this particular, I'm not saying this is generalizable for many other jobs, by the way. There are jobs that will be into extinction due to AI, but there are jobs that since they are in extinction, VA look an assistant or any assistant, they are in extinction. But if you got closer, you understand it's not possible. It's actually you outsource. You think you can outsource directly to the AI, but the reality will be you outsource to, as you were doing before, to that.
Who also then outsources to
outsource to that. I think what is going to happen is the fractional aspect of it.
Yeah,
before you have one CFO, before you have one assistant, the assistant will become fractional because at the same time, it can now serve more clients for the same money, blah, blah, and that's the way you restructure it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way we are. That's the way we already are. That's
exactly,
but
right? I don't think there is an understanding of this.
No,
so
because exactly, because I think like all the tools that we see, and we see a lot of them, they are assuming that they are going to replace the work that the CFO does, rather than trying to figure out how do I work with the CFO. And the tools that I'm trying to build, which are very, very kind of basic, depending on your level of understanding, but certainly basic, I think, compared to other tools out there, are to help the CFOs that work with me do their job better.
The misunderstanding is part, for many reasons, not entering into that, is the tool will 100% replace the job, not the task, the job.
Yeah,
that's the kind of untrue phrase, right?
Yeah.
The moment you start to say it's actually not 100%, it's 95%, is over.
Yeah.
The moment you think is even 95% will be enough. For example, for the assistant example, in your case, we are not even close to 90%.
Yeah.
In the case of CFOs,
sure,
it's way below that. So, but you see, even a straightforward assessment, that's why I use the assistant example, because it seems straightforward. We are close to it.
But that last 5% is probably the hardest 5%.
Exactly, the most painful one.
Yeah. No, and there. Look, I mean, I think also, the reality is that most humans like interacting with humans.
Right?
Like so there was a whole thing where Klarna sacked its whole customer service department, replaced it with AI, and then like 3 months later hired them all back again, right? Anything that is high touch, highly kind of emotional, highly where you require high empathy, etc., and both knowledge, experience, and practice of that knowledge. I think those are like anything that isn't purely rules based. Is very hard to automate. Now, the reality is that there are actually very few things that are purely 100% rules based, right? But there are things that accountancy is the best example in my world, where actually 99% of that can get automated and can have the AI, the AI essentially run that, because it's also the lowest value work, right? And actually, the AI doing it, for whatever little that it isn't able to do, it's still going to be probably 5x, 10x more accurate, more timely, more whatever than a human, right? Because those are the problems with accountants. Problems. I mean, those are some of the issues that one faces when working with an accountant, right? Listen, I think I think there's so much more that we can talk about. I mean, just briefly, because you in one of your State of AI reports, you had highlighted, or Gartner had highlighted, that synthetic data is the industry's next big thing, right?
Yeah.
But isn't that just our kind of the latest way of institutionalizing biases whilst convincing ourselves we solve them? And will synthetic data cause more harm than good? Or could one argue we're already in a world where synthetic data has proliferated and we're there? And by the way, what do you actually mean by synthetic data? Maybe that's a good place to start.
It goes to okay. Where do I start? Synthetic data definition, I suppose. Synthetic data means data that is completely artificially generated. You can do there are many ways to do it. You can be literally building a model, a statistical model, and then with randomization, something you build some data, basically some hypothesis, right?
Sure.
Whatever sort you build. There are two main ways of doing that. So one is you build a statistical model, like say a population, you know more or less that the population, I don't know, die at 70 or 80, whatever that is. You put a randomization of that, depending on what they eat or whatever, and you build a model, and then you run the number, and you have a population or a fake population of that will be a synthetic data. Another way is taking real data, sort of anonymizing it, etc., extracting some sort of pattern. You take the abstract pattern and then you keep generating more data.
Got it. So it's like it's in silico kind of representation of real world, but it is
usually a broad two ways of doing that. Yeah. That's the definition. All right. So back to Gartner, I think it has to be said. I think their prediction was in 2021.
Okay.
So it's about 4 years old already. Yeah. So I think it's important to put in mind.
Right.
Maybe 22, I don't remember, but still a few years back. Now, first thing you need to, actually, on the definition, it's important to highlight another thing. So this trait definition now we're using ChatGPT is becoming ambiguous. As in, imagine your favorite system to create an image, yeah? You put a prompt and you create the image. Now, is that image synthetic, or is that image belong to the human?
Yeah.
You're blurring this kind of
because it's based
right?
on it's
on top of that,
trained on millions of
you take
of
it, you don't like it, you modify on Photoshop.
Yeah.
Is it yours? Is it AI? We are getting to that. So obviously it's not the moment to talk about this blurring definition, but let's put that aside. Now, what is gonna happen today? Have you heard, you heard about Scale AI and stuff like that? The reason why I mentioned that is there is a data labeling kind of sub-niche industry. What I mean by that, okay, we more or less, since a few years ago, why Gartner started with this prediction? Because it was already clear that all the data we got, we're already using it.
Yeah,
There's nothing left in the tank in terms of new data to use to train models. And that was clear a few years back. Now you have, what will you do if you need more data, you don't know where to catch? One of the reasons is synthetic data. Therefore, that's why they did this prediction. I think they predicted in 2021 by 2030 it was 70% of the data. I don't remember exactly, something like that. 70% of the data will be synthetic, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, a good example would be there is very little publicly available information on, say, startups or startup financials. Yeah. You would have to create synthetic data in order to.
That's one. The other aspect of it, we are in 2026, that's why they command this incredible evaluation like Scale AI, etc., etc. They basically have a pool of trainers that all they do is taking the AI and retraining or putting data labeling systems. Therefore, this manually / hybridly is a bit hybrid, even in that case, label data, then can be used to train the AI.
Sure.
So the first thing, unfortunately, is there is not a big distinction between, because even data labeling, right? They have a system, and when it goes wrong, the human intervene, but the rest is fake. I'm not sure. It's not completely human, neither completely synthetic at that moment. This data labeling system is an hybrid system. So, what we are going to next, because that's the important thing, I believe will be the hybridization will come in the majority of our next phase of data. It's the same way as the hacker mentality, right? It's perfectly spot on the hacker mentality job, if you think about it. Because this trainee, all they do is, the AI goes around, I need to label this data, or I have a model for math, Yeah, that's what most of these scale AI kind of data labeling companies do. They have a model that does mathematical teaching or something like that. Sometimes the mathematical model goes wrong, or physics, or whatever that is, right? So they engage with a large pool of trainers. All they need to do is correct when the AI model does the physics equation wrong or the math more wrong, etc. Hence, then the argument is this correction in human data? Yes, but the next time will not be. Hence the hacker economy. They correct, I say one, but bear with me, few times, and then from that moment on, it will generate more synthetic right output in math or in physics, right? So unfortunately, we are getting over this definition of straight distinction between synthetic and they are blurring, and there is no other way to distinguish that. Yeah. The only other option is, if you like this distinction, is at some point, whatever the system is, it will go live, right? Like ChatGPT. Therefore, it will interact with the system. It will give output, but the prompt, etc. Obviously, if you just consider the prompt, that will be human generated. Somehow, somewhere. Therefore, I think it's a good way until in a consumer way, right? Not in the amount of data, but in a consumer way. You count the interaction. What the interaction will be human, and how many interaction will be synthetic. Synthetic as in the output of the ChatGPT. Basically, if I put an input, which is human, because I did it, the output will be synthetic. 101. So if 50 is to 50. The problem starts when you will attach another AI that replies to the AI.
So at the moment, I get AI to create the prompts that I then use to.
There we go. So in that case, you have two output. Let's simplify. Two output. There will be from synthetic / system generated. Synthetic and ChatGPT generated is the same thing, right? Okay, just to clarify. And one human from you. At some point, you put something. In that case, 70% will be right in terms of prediction of Gartner. Because if you attach more system and communicate, and you only have one at the beginning, then you have more data point that comes synthetic as AI generated than the human one. My judgment will be less, because I don't think you can put
I don't think there'll be a chain of
chain AI to each other. So I think it will be more close to 50-50 or 60 AI, 40 synthetic.
Look, I mean, I it's not something I've necessarily thought deeply about, but to the extent that I have thought about it, I the way I think about it now is that, okay, how much writing is happening that is predominantly or at least substantially AI generated. So like I'm writing a book at the moment. I don't use AI to write, but I do use AI to plan, right? So the structure of the chapter maybe or whatever, right? So in that instance, is that human generated? Is that synthetic? Is it
blurry,
neither?
right?
It's very blurry, right? Now there will be others who both use AI to create the chapter outline. They may even then get AI to write the chapter, and then they will edit it, right? And maybe it's 30% edited by the human. So again, that's still more synthetic than not, right? And I think this is where we're going. And obviously, as we start seeing more AI-generated images, AI-generated video, AI-generated whatever, it can only be the case, exactly to your point. Like unless you get access to the private information that is up until now not gone into LLMs and other.
I think if you come back to what I think the hacker mentality is not about the amount of data, but the most invaluable bit.
The quality.
If you think about it, if Lovable or whatever AI system that produce code, it did all synthetic, right? But there is a bug on that. Is it solving that bug as the same value of the old code?
Possibly. Possibly.
So you can, if you just put line of code, you will say this is 99% AI generated, but there was that bar without
that you would have nothing.
So
that's super interesting.
Is it right to consider that completely synthetic? No, sure. So to me, the most important way to think about is not about quantity, no, quality as in most invaluable part.
What makes the system work?
Exactly.
Like without that, if this did not exist, would this exist in its entirety?
Exactly. So we need to go over this synthetic, no synthetic mentality somehow.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think what this whole conversation, I think start to finish, what it really exemplifies is that we're so early we don't know. In so many of these things, there is just an open, there is an open pathway, or there are multiple open pathways, and the direction we take will dictate where we end up. But the point is, anyone who is sitting here today saying, I know that in 3 years or in 5 years or in 2 years or in 10 years, this is the way it'll be, there is so much nuance and so much potential for different paths that it is impossible to predict, right? And to your point, and I've read your State of AI, obviously, yes, I understand why you made the predictions, and the near-term predictions, as we know, are easy as they, as they get farther out, it's very hard to predict. Directionally, we could be correct, but how we get there and what the final outcome and the final end state is could be very different.
If you can add on that, because I think it fit on this perfectly. So the way we structure the report is a bit different to any report you can find online or in the AI subjects. Is we, before getting to the prediction, there are two sections which I think are understated, but for me is the most important part. I get that most people want to do the prediction, it's fine, but my most important part is the other two bit, the few people mentioned, is secular trend and catalyst trend. So the way I might come to the prediction is understanding what they are. The secular trend are the trend we are fitting in, continue for more than 10 years. A catalyst trend could be the born of ChatGPT.
Yeah,
just simplifying.
Just the
something
paradigm
that
shift.
has an affect the immediate years, right?
Yeah.
But
Something
it will fade out in the future.
Something that pushes other.
It will fade out because new system. A trend that is secular is something like aging of the population, right? Sure. Because that affects everything, and so the investment in AI, in drug delivery, etc. But one of the trends, which is the one that I want to talk because it's super important to me, is the hybridization. Yeah, we are getting to. It's not, by the way, I understand there are people, even you though you may don't like it. I completely understand this. Look, I understand this. But unfortunately, literally nobody can change this. We are in a hybridization trend. It is secular. Nobody can move it, by the way. Which means we are hybridizing with the machines.
Yeah.
And when we are talking about, the synthetic data, you see there is hybrid blurring. It's because we are in that trend.
Yeah.
We are hybridizing with the machines, so we are interacting way more with the machines. Just to clarify, before you have a laptop, now you have a smartwatch with touching your skin. Eventually, in the future, you have something connect directly with your brain. Not talking about that, but you see the hybridization trend, and this fit perfectly in that trend because what we call before there was a distinction: synthetic data, real data. Now it's moving on, and that's the trend we are in, and nobody can touch it, is the hybridization.
Andrea, look, I think we could carry on talking for a long time, I'm sure, but a couple of sort of final questions just to round off the pod. What is one thing that you have a contrarian conviction about from any area of life, whether that's work, politics, socially, or at home?
The simple one is I don't think AI will ever become sentient.
Okay. Which, depending on which side you land, is either not contrarian at all or very contrarian.
Yeah. I choose a simple one. Yes.
Although I think, from everything we've talked about, I get the impression that would definitely be one of your convictions. And finally, so that we can get to know the real you, what is something that moves you emotionally?
I'm completely driven by curiosity and understanding how things works. And the problem when you're trying to understand how things work, eventually in your life, you understand that the emotional bit is underrated. It's not about understanding all the equation, which I believe at least I understand more than the emotional bit, but the emotionally drive way more than your. When you talk about intuition, for example, how much it comes from something that is not linear, not based on any equation or any rational thinking at all. It comes from something more related to your emotional being than anything else. But anyway, the curiosity aspect of it is what drives understanding how all this come together.
I think you and I are very similar in in that respect. I think curiosity is what has kept me going for the last 3 or 4 decades, to say the least. Look, Andrea, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining me. For the audience, where can they find you online? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you on Twitter?
I'm mostly on LinkedIn. Andrea Isoni, you'll find me easily on that. If you want to chat me is andrea@aitechnologies.co, no M at the end.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.